Beyond.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Podcast Beyond, episode 398. This is, of course, the number one PlayStation podcast of all time ever in history. And we talk about PlayStation.
I thought there was a better one, like
sometimes.
in the early episodes.
Caesar had a great PlayStation podcast.
That's right. Augustus, not Julius.
Yeah, Benjamin Franklin had a wonderful PlayStation podcast, but most of the time, no one heard it because they hadn't invented podcasts yet.
Yep.
They wouldn't be invented for
and
another
it was a
200
little bit
years.
racist. Just a little too racist for public consumption.
All right, so we're off to a good start here. I'm your host, Max Scoville. Joining me, Marty Sleva.
Thank you for having me, Max.
You're here every day, always here. Brian Altano. And Andrew Goldfarb.
Hey, I like how you held up the paper and then said "brat brat" like as though you left yourself notes.
That's right.
line.
Well, my notes are just
it.
2 pages, and one page says "brap" and the other one says you gotta clean your clothes.
Also,
Grocery list.
can we notice again? Every day, Andrew comes in with another T-shirt that we mock, and this time he's wearing an Assassin's Creed T-shirt from 6 Assassin's Creed games ago.
And people call you a hipster, Marty.
Also, that's not even the comfortable AC3 T-shirt. I have a comfortable.
No, it's AC4 T-shirt.
The one with no, there's one that they made with Connor. It's
I
great.
didn't get that.
Is it the limited edition one?
Yeah. I think we might have got it at
UB
that
Workshop
preview trip.
ones.
Yeah.
It's a very soft shirt.
Yeah.
I have that for Black Flag.
What a weird thing to just be like. Let's talk about how soft this promotional T-shirt is.
So there's
really
a
soft,
quick
though.
cheat code if you live in a major metropolitan area for video game T-shirts is you take them to Salvation Army, and within 3 days you will see a drug addict wearing it.
Yeah.
Which
Free
is actually it's
advertising.
really funny to see a crackhead in a Katamari shirt.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got news about video games. There's a lot of stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
There's so much. First of all, there's Uncharted coming, the Nathan Drake collection coming to
right.
PS4. That's
Huge.
cool. Fallout.
Yeah.
That is, in fact, 4 Fallouts. There is now Fallout 4.
That's good.
You did it. You added
That's
the
the
third
game
Fallout.
that's coming out. Dark Souls 3, meanwhile, is something that we didn't really think was. I mean,
No, and
it's
then all of a sudden it got scooped.
it got
Hot scooped.
announced via keychain that somebody took a picture of.
No,
That keychain. I don't think that keychain thing happened.
Was it fake?
It was a Rooster Teeth thing.
Okay. With
the rooster keychain.
I saw a keychain.
How'd you know about the keychain?
Someone showed me a keychain.
Keychain is secret.
Okay.
So that's 3 of the biggest games of the year announced preemptively before E3. So why are we going?
Yeah. Just stay here.
Let's just do it from home.
There will be stuff that we don't know about.
Yes.
There could
There's an interesting thing going on here. Blizzard's Paul Sam has joined Ready at Dawn as the CEO. We'll talk about that a little bit. Super Meat Boy is coming to PlayStation.
Yeah.
For
That's
free.
really exciting.
Finally, for
Yeah.
free. Yeah,
For free.
the PlayStation
For
Plus.
no monies at all.
That's cool. They had a really
Except what you took to buy your PlayStation.
lovely, earnest press release about that.
Yes.
Like they were like, "Hey, sorry this hasn't been on a PlayStation console, guys. We seriously didn't want that. Like we want people to play our game. That was a business thing. Cough, Microsoft, cough. You know."
Is it weird that every time someone uses the word earnest, I think of the hit film series Ernest?
Yeah, like
I actually
Ernest
think
Goes to
of
Camp.
Mr. Ernst from the hit show Hey Dude on Nickelodeon.
I think of the importance
See, I think that
of
one's
being
not
earnest.
weird. I think that one's a little weird.
Okay, well, Jim
The
Varney died
important-
of
yeah.
cigarettes. I just wanna-
Oh boy.
Cigarettes.
Okay,
Shut up
so
and think about it.
Uncharted. Let's
Uncharted,
talk
let's
about
go.
Uncharted. We
Yeah,
excited.
totally kind of expected this. We talked
Yes.
about this. Yeah. So it's the Nathan Drake collection.
Yes.
They're probably going to have a few little tweaks here and there because they did basically have to rebuild this thing for the PS4. They said that it's a different architecture from PS3, which we knew, and the previous games were heavily taking advantage of the PS3's.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
unlike
unlike
60 FPS. and
60 FPS, but
1080p.
they're removing the multiplayer from 2 and 3, which a lot of people are sort of upset about. Like, I don't know. I liked the multiplayer I played a lot of the 3, especially the beta.
Sure.
But I mean, it doesn't upset me that it's not there, especially because it said you get beta access to Uncharted 4's multiplayer with this collection. which
Right,
seems
but that
really cool.
won't be there at launch, right?
No.
It didn't
Probably
say
not,
either way,
so-
but my guess
Yeah.
is that'll come later. It'll
I
sort of
would-
be like
so-
you bought a ticket in.
Yeah.
into
This
it.
doesn't come out until what, like October? So I guess it depends on when Uncharted is coming out, right? Like if
Well, it's not this year.
I mean, they said
Yeah.
Uncharted's before March 31st.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. So it's like if it, I don't think you would do it 6 months or 5 months early, right? So it's like, yeah, I would guess after New Year, maybe.
Yeah.
Total shot in the dark.
Yeah, I think that complaining about the lack of multiplayer here is kind of missing the point, you know, because
Right.
if you're going to get your multiplayer, you're going to get beta access.
Yeah.
That seems totally reasonable. It's not like they're saying there's no Uncharted multiplayer ever coming to PS4. It's just like, here's the thing. Here's a collection of the games. with the parts that people typically talk
Yeah,
about.
and the story is what's important here. Like they're doubling down on the fact that it's like, hey, this new one, especially like with all the A Thief's End and like hinting that this is sort of the end of his journey and all that. Like it's important to see where it started and to kind of get those story angles.
And like we've said before, like you just look at the early adoption console. I guess it's not early adoption anymore, but there are a hell of a lot of people who own a PS4 who probably never had a PS3.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
there were people who were 360 guys, and all of a sudden now they have a PS4.
So I'm actually personally really excited for this collection because I played through The Last of Us and loved it, and I specifically said when I finished it, this was an amazing experience. I never want to play this game again. I never want to repeat. I never want to go through any of this. This was such an amazing emotional ride. And then The Last of Us remaster came out, and I got about 10 hours or 5 hours in, maybe 7 or 8 hours in, and I said, I don't know why I did this again. This is sort of like I've been here already. I've done this before. But something about the Uncharted games.
Uncharted's fun.
It's fun. It's like it's that movie you throw on a Saturday afternoon. It's like every time Die Hard's on, I have to stop and watch it.
Totally.
You know, like I feel the same way around about like Uncharted 2. And I definitely feel that way about Uncharted 3, even though it obviously gets a little darker at times.
Nate,
No. But I want to play the first one again because I want to see like if there's anything they go in and actually tweak a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's where I start
I think that we're
wondering.
going to see that. I
Yeah.
think that's cool. No, I think that's a really, really good point. These are totally games that are fun, and that's not to say The Last of Us isn't fun, but that's exactly the wrong word for it.
It's emotionally
exactly.
draining.
I mean, it's
harrowing.
It's
Yeah.
the difference
Yeah.
between
Engaging.
Yeah.
Raiders of the Lost Ark and Schindler's List.
Exactly.
Like they're
Yeah.
made by the same dudes.
Schindler's List is fun and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I think you didn't.
Oh.
Okay, that works better.
Yeah.
That works better than you think.
Engaging.
So this isn't
Yeah.
being done internally at Naughty Dog. This is Bluepoint,
Yep.
who are sort of the like port masters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the portmanteaus.
That'd be funny if it said that under their sign.
Port masters.
Port Masters. Blue Point.
We literally were joking before you came in here about how you like portmanteaus, and I said a portmanteau, and then you just went and said portmanteau on the
That's
show.
really
so
good.
funny, yeah.
That's really good.
Can you explain what a portmanteau is to everybody?
It's where you
Transfarring.
You mash
Yeah,
up. It's transferring. You mash
Can you
up two
explain what
words.
transfarring is to everybody?
That's when you play a game on your PSP,
That's right.
and then you go somewhere with it.
So, I don't know if this is like weird, like crockpot theories, but
Yeah.
do you think one of the reasons that multiplayer isn't included is because everyone's sort of afraid of like what happened with the Master Chief Collection last year, where the games worked great, but like sort of the netcode just got completely borked in the.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's definitely a fear. That's
Yeah.
definitely.
But
a
I
fear.
don't think it. So I would guess that not so much as a reaction to that they didn't do it, whereas I think maybe it's for the same reasons. The same reason that Master Chief Collection was messed up, because they were taking kind of old code and trying to make it work in a modern system. They probably looked at that challenge and were like, it's probably not worth the risk,
Yeah. Right.
rather than being like, oh, well, that Master Chief Collection came out. Let's not do that. to
Yeah, I
ourselves.
guess with Halo, like the multiplayer is more prominent.
Yeah, no,
And it was from
I
even
would
the
say
generation
that.
Yeah.
before.
Also,
Yeah.
it's like that's totally a good point. Is like Halo is famous for its multiplayer. It is exactly the thing there. I mean, like Uncharted. It's not to say that it's bad multiplayer or that people don't
But
play it.
everyone
but
thinks of
it's-
the campaign first.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's honestly sort of weird in retrospect that The Last of Us even had multiplayer. It seems very much like a kind of thing that somebody higher up is like, gotta have that.
Yeah.
because Call of
Yeah.
Duty's big, you know,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah,
like.
it always feels like an afterthought in Naughty Dog games, even though it's pretty good.
Yeah, which sucks.
Yeah,
you
The
know?
Last of Us was really good.
Yeah, the Last of Us
multiplayer,
multiplayer is really good.
Which, I mean, that happens here and there where somebody is sort of like, well, we also have multiplayer, and it turns out to be amazing, but it's not the focus at all.
Yeah.
I think that really, like, this is sort of doubling down on the fact that of my belief that this is not really for people like us, even though I just said I'm going to be one of those guys that replays
I'm totally
these
gonna
games.
replay
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
This is for people who haven't played these games yet, and I think the multiplayer thing. Anyone asking why it's not there probably never played it to begin with. That's people who played it already and they just want it back for the sake of
For nostalgia.
and I think being a completionist and sort
People-
of just having something on their shelf.
Yeah,
forever.
people get mad finding out that I got the Star Wars prequels on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
and I bought like one of the newer packages of those, and it didn't come with any bonus features. Like there's like commentaries, but I was like expecting there to be behind the scenes stuff, and I just sort of assumed that there would be. And I kind of looked and I was like, huh, that's weird. And I probably wouldn't have watched that stuff anyway,
But
but
you just like the fact that it was there.
yeah, it's like you get the. I mean, it's hard. It must be hard to do this because you're like, hey, here's a new version of a thing with half of it is not there.
Yeah,
You-
and ironically, that's like the most. I mean, a lot of people say that the Uncharted games are like movies, but that's about the most cinematic thing you can do is put out a re-release of your game in a higher definition, but chop off a bunch of stuff that was there to begin with. That's like every copy of Blade Runner sold in the late '90s was just like, well, it's different than the one before it. Deal with it.
Yeah. Okay.
One weird thing, really, final note, is that a lot of people thought this might include Golden Abyss, like a first-time console port of Golden Abyss,
Right.
which
Yeah.
it doesn't. I mean, I don't like. I'm curious to see how much of Golden Abyss's story plays into UC4 at all.
My guess would be little to none.
I really doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
that was a different.
That was
Sunny Bend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sunny Bend's
I
last
think
game.
for posterity, it would have been cool to see that on a television in HD. But
See, I totally agree, but number one, it has the same problem that Terror Unfolded has, which is that like a lot of those things were so built around the Vita specifically. Like it was all like using backtouch to turn things around and rubbing charcoal and holding up the light. Like those features.
Did you actually you have to put charcoal on your Vita?
yeah,
Yeah,
ruined
yeah,
the
there's
screen
like
all over.
actual charcoal.
Yeah, it's an expensive system.
I don't
That's how you turn a
imagine
white one
that-
into a black one.
I can't imagine that would be worth it for this. And I think also it answers your question, right? Like how much of the story is important for Uncharted 4? Well, they didn't include it, so probably not a lot.
It wouldn't really surprise me that much if that showed up on as like a downloadable down the road, like just like, hey,
Maybe.
here it is
Like
in
how
HD.
ODST is.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where if this sold incredibly well, then like why wouldn't they do it as DLC?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's also it's a way more small scale game. Like I mean even the things you're climbing are tiny.
Putting
like,
that on the big screen would show its flaws really closely.
Yeah.
Like you would notice that was really impressive to play that on a Vita because you're like, holy crap, how am I playing this?
Yep.
Yeah.
But if you put it on a TV, it would I think it would feel like a subpar Uncharted.
I mean,
It's made with portability in mind. Like it has many more chapters than typical Uncharted games, and they're much shorter because it's like basically like there's still a lot to do in that game, but it's like it feels like it's meant to be more of that pick up and play.
Did a Vuvuzela play every time you died?
Yeah.
yes.
you actually had
And
to
there was a trading
you had
card
to
game.
blow into the microphone to play the Vuvuzela every time you died.
I'm surprised. I mean,
Is that a cat?
like honestly, they could have used the PS4 touchpad and had you rub charcoal off of artifacts.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of glad they didn't.
We're seeing
you know?
Tearaway on PS4.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited for this.
Fallout, Fallout, everybody! God, I'm so excited about this. It's almost like a perfunctory excitement though. Like it's Fallout 4. There's no question at all that I'm gonna play it. Like it's one of those things everyone is going to play it. We are all going to go nuts for it.
Right.
Now that the dust has settled, was kind of underwhelmed by that
Whoa!
reveal. Sorry.
No,
sorry.
I'm right there with you.
But there was a dog in it.
I mean, those are great animals. I don't know what more you want me to say.
That did a thing where it showed off a lot. Like it showed off a lot of stuff in the game.
Yeah, we were sort of
And
expecting it to be like a teaser that was like the Doom thing, where it's like,
Yeah.
here's an
One
alien's
frame.
crotch.
I mean, they revealed Skyrim with like a slow panning thing of a mural, and then by the time Skyrim was shown off, you were like, "Holy crap! Look at that!" And you were seeing it in action. And I think that they showed off too much in a way that wasn't flattering for it.
I think like what part of the issue is like we're so close. Like we knew about. I mean, we've heard rumor. Even our audience has. And if you've read IGN in the last year, you've read rumors about Fallout being set in Boston and Fallout 4 is happening, and us knowing the timing of it being totally something that was happening around E3, and then there was teasers. There was that like card they sent out to people. There's just like all little clues, like the birdseed trail leading up to this is like very obvious. So I think that we actually got it, and it finally put all that stuff to rest. But it was also like, oh. Yeah.
Can we talk about birdseed trail? Do you mean breadcrumb trail?
No, if you leave breadcrumbs, then the wolves will eat it. The
Yo,
wolves
that's
won't
how you
eat birds.
catch a guinea fowl.
What?
What?
Never heard of the birdseed trail?
No, you just said guinea fowl.
That's a bird.
Speaking of Italy,
Yeah. I wasn't trying to be like racist against Italians or anything. I mean, I don't really have to try
See,
too
this
hard.
is why that bedroom.
I'm a
Franklin
Falconi.
This is why the Ben Franklin podcast doesn't work.
And that was Speaking of Italy, starring Brian Altano and his racist ass friends.
I do think like my problem with Fallout right now is like I liked that trailer, but I just want to play the game. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I don't need to see anything else. Like I am fine. All right, yep, you got my $60.
Well,
like,
6 days from now, you're probably going to see a demo. So.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, I wish that it had been kind of like it showed off so much, and it really, like, we should talk about this. It graphically looks kind of underwhelming compared to some other stuff we've seen lately. Like, I'm playing The Witcher, and like to go from that to Fallout 4 from what we're seeing, it's
right.
It makes me wonder because it's been a while. It's been Fallout 3 was what 2007, and Bethesda Game Studios obviously did Skyrim in between,
right?
But it makes me wonder: did this start as a last gen game? Like I don't know, or is it just that there's so much in it that the scope of it means that you sacrifice graphical fidelity, but maybe that's worth it.
So there's a couple things I really like. I really like the fact that there were colors.
Yep, that's a huge thing.
Yeah,
like remember, like when I go back, like Destin's replaying Fallout 3 for a bunch of stuff now, and I go back and I look, and like he has a bunch of PC mods, and the game like it still looks good, but I'm like, man, there are not a lot of colors in this game. It's all like green and gray and brown.
That was really, it was a product of its time too. I mean, there was like a 2 or 3 or even 5 year stretch where every game
Resistance
was on
Gears
that.
of War.
Yeah, and then I think it became this like self-aware mockery where everybody just said, oh, you know, it's another brown game, another beige game. Like all these games looked exactly the same. And then little by little, like, I mean, I remember when they first introduced like color in a Diablo, people were furious. And now they did it in Fallout and people are really excited. So I think things are turning around. People understand that like that really just dead brown, and I think a lot of movies started doing it too, so the whole style just ran into the ground. But speaking of which, that's something that I kind of noticed about this is that Fallout in video games at least kind of originated that whole like and there's just like shots of like a robot and a gun that you take something that doesn't work, and then we got 3 BioShocks like that, and like 7 other games fit that exact same style where they took the old warbly record player and then like there was a mutant getting shot and it was like, oh no, and then Fallout was like, that's ours, motherfuckers, and they came back and they're doing it again, but it seems so played out, you know? It was sort of like when Tarantino was making movies and he took a break and everyone made Tarantino-style films. He came back to do his own... Sorry, Marty. And everybody was just like, oh, your style's really played out. And he's like, I made that. Like, I invented that.
Yeah, it's another thing. I also would like... this game is going to be awesome. Like, it's going to be... It would be really, really weird if it was just sort of bad, you know? Because it's an excellent series, and Bethesda will make games that are like... They'll be kind of janky, but they're really fun and they're really cool and they're just interesting worlds to explore. Yeah. It's like when we get our hands on it, I think we're going to be pretty happy.
Yeah. Speaking of that janky thing, we got an email from
Travis Kent. He says, Beyond, quick question, guys. Given Bethesda's history with less than optimal performance of its games on the PS3, Skyrim and New Vegas in particular, do you have any reservations about Fallout 4 on PS4?
No, because that was a PS3 specific problem. It didn't have enough RAM to handle those games. There was cell processor issues. Like now the PS4 is a beast. Like I think there's like that of the many concerns I have for this game, that's totally not one of them.
And seriously, of like any multi-platform game so far this gen, I don't think we've seen one where the PS4 is the one that has either problem or suboptimal performance or anything.
Yeah.
Beyond.
I would be very surprised. I think at this point, like if anything, I would expect the PS4 one to be the more powerful.
I would say that Sony probably looked pretty closely at what the problem was with games like Skyrim and New Vegas when they were designing the PS4.
Yes,
like this
was
so. Speaking of which, Brett Woodmans, that's like a woodsman, I think, but weird. Says Fallout 4 will be a timed exclusive on PS4. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's my shot in the dark prediction. Maybe.
I really doubt
no
it.
way.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I think we would find out more next week. But what I think is it'll have exclusive content because everything does now. Everything has that grid. Every video game has that Watch Dogs looking grid of like, you can get this here, and the hat's at Best Buy, and Radio Shack has the gun holster.
I don't think Radio Shack still plays.
But they have the gun holster.
They definitely have the gun holster.
Circuit City has plenty of gun holsters because it's empty and there's a bunch of
squatters in there.
Yeah.
Didn't Wolfenstein have some PS4 something?
Exclusivity?
Anyone? Yeah, I think.
I believe so.
Not exclusivity, but they had some kind of time.
Missions
something.
had DLC.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't think Fallout needs it. Like,
I would be very surprised.
That being said, like, I totally expect some game at E3, whether it's a game we already know about or an unannounced game that Sony is going to try to gobble it up, like how Microsoft did with Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Right.
Yeah.
And like Tomb Raider will eventually come to PS4, I'm sure.
I mean, they did with that was their big move for No Man's Sky last year.
Yeah.
Almost to a year ago to the T. I believe the story goes that No Man's Sky was heading into E3 as a free agent, and Sony sort of swooped it up at the last minute and folded it into their press conference, which is a big
Sony
get.
betted it.
Yeah. That's right.
They romance them.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it looks great. I mean, it's going to be awesome. Like, yeah, visually, it's not the best looking game in the world. I kind of have a problem with that, but I have a bigger problem with people saying, yeah, none of their games do, so that's okay. And I'm sort of just being like, well, crazy pedo who smokes cigarettes in the house, so
I mean, maybe I'm just
he's allowed to do that. It's like, no, go outside. It's bad.
They definitely. I mean, you see the problems with them as we kind of. As time has passed, they've aged weird, but like Skyrim is still like that's a pretty cool looking game.
Yep.
Like I don't get how somebody would say that's like an ugly game.
Yeah, and Bethesda's able to do open worlds just as well as anyone else.
There was so much hyperbole. People were saying like the hands look like San Andreas. Like San Andreas hands was a thing people were saying for a while. Like the guy petting the dog.
Yeah.
It's like.
Also, I think they're going for
go play that game.
It's more cartoony.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're kind of going back to old Fallout, like which has like a very kind of. It was kind of goofy, you know.
Well, it looks like that aesthetic of like that like pre-war those propaganda posters.
Also, we saw a trailer. We didn't see the game. We're going to see the game, and it's going to like.
Well, it's interesting because like I think at this point my biggest fear for the game is that it's as good as the previous games. That it's just more of the same. Because more of the same would still be an incredible game, but it's just like what I'm waiting for is like it's not the graphics that make me concerned. It's that it's like that looks like kind of like Fallout 3, and I mean that in a positive way. But it's also like I kind of want something totally different. Like it's the same boat I'm in now with like Assassin's Creed and Need for Speed and all these other games. I'm like, yeah, they're going back to their roots, and that's really interesting. But I just start to feel burned out on it after a while.
My biggest fear with the game is that I buy it and bring it home and open it, and a bat flies out.
Or a bunch of spiders are just inside, like your peanut butter.
There were actually no.
What if you open it up and it's the wrong disc? It's like,
that's if you buy the game.
It's like
from
Windows printer software. You're like, no,
Bethesda. How could you have? I'm curious to see if I guess my last thought is if like the trailer has a lot of what was life like before and after. Like, I wonder if
that's what we should have been talking about this entire time.
I wonder if the before stuff will actually be in the game, if that's a playable thing. If time travel's in the game, if like you're playing a character as they're younger.
Or like the
Max and I were
Bioshock
debating this off
camera
the other day.
They do a thing. Bethesda does the thing where they'll sort of show you the main mechanic in a trailer, but they won't label it.
Yeah.
Like Skyrim was all like, I mean, Skyrim confirmed dragons. Like you were like, yeah, and they was talking about like Alduin and stuff, and it's like that was a big part of that game. Like the whole dragon shout thing was like that was like the kind of core game mechanic, and they sort of alluded to it in early stuff, but without being like, yeah, you get to absorb dragon souls and then you shout at people and they blow up or whatever. In this case, I think that time travel is a very, very safe bet in terms of like, I mean, I'm not saying it's confirmed, but it seems like the trailer does kind of allude to that. Or conversely, it might be set in kind of two different time periods. Like it might do the thing that Fallout 3 did where you're a baby, but like the tutorial sequence is leading up to the big war or whatever.
Yeah, I never like I am amazed because I've read that online. I never watched that trailer and thought time travel. I thought like the Bioshock Infinite thing where it's like you start out before the shit hits the fan, and so it's like you start in pre-war and then you eventually get there, or maybe you even go back and forth per chapter or some kind of weird thing. But like in an open world game, that's a really hard story to tell.
Yeah.
Well, what tripped people up was it was segments of the exact same part outside of the vault that you could flip back and forth between, or at least the trailer was doing.
And it's like you see that in like Metro 2033 and Last Light do that a little bit, right? Like you're walking through and you almost get like a second of like seeing what it was like.
It's like the whole Tomorrowland trailer.
Yeah,
you know, like they do that very well in that, which I haven't seen yet, but I want to. But it looked like. To me, it's like if that's a game mechanic, that kind of would explain why the graphics aren't through the roof amazing. Because if they're building two worlds on top of each other, then that's a little more work.
I was speculating about that, and Dan Stapleton was like, "Oh, there's no way that's going to be the thing." And I was just like, I mean,
it's a good Dan Stapleton
thank
voice.
you.
It just sounds like you're Marty, but with less woes.
Really, everybody at IGN sort of has the same voice. It's just a different pitch. That's just voices in general. Yeah. I mean, I've always loved the mirror mechanic in Link to the Past, like the idea of a dark world switching back and forth. And I feel like, has anybody really like? Bioshock Infinite wanted to do that. Like that was going to be the thing. Was the portals did stuff. Yeah. And I think that it's something that is, I mean, Bethesda knows how to make games mostly, you know? Like sometimes your horse goes through a wall, but otherwise, you know, they're pretty cool.
So
sometimes cheese starts vibrating.
It's interesting you mentioned Link to the Past is actually kind of the best comparison I've heard of why this could work, because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the dark world, you could warp back to the light world pretty much
not vice
anywhere,
versa.
but not vice versa.
Yeah.
Vice versa had to be specific points in the light world. And so I was talking about this with Max about how if you were in the, apocalypse Fallout, and you're fighting a mutant, and you're like, nope, you could just hit a button and go back in time to where it's happy, and all the kids are like, yay, and they're on the playground, and then you walk 50 feet ahead, and you warp back, and the mutant's like, where'd it go? Like, that doesn't work. That's weird. That's so that you could skip through, you could basically warp through everything. But if there are like sort of memory points where you walk through and it's like, oh god, and he grabs his head, and
Fallout's always there's sleeping, oh, you can't sleep here, it's an own bed, you can't fast travel, you're over encumbered. Like, it'll make up its own rules, they're good about that. But,
I don't know, I think that mechanic sounds awesome. It just doesn't feel like Fallout. Like, it would be really interesting. Like, it's exactly what I just said I wanted, where it like, doesn't feel like Fallout 3. Like, yeah, like I think that would be really cool for the franchise, but like I don't know if that would upset like the kind of hardcore like people who've been there since the beginning.
I wonder if they're never going to show this in the trailer either way, but like they're going to have VATS, I imagine, maybe, it's one of those things like so. Skyrim didn't have that at all.
Yeah, and it's like, do you think there's a karma system again? Like, do we know like, how dialed in it'll be to like the mechanics of Fallout 3?
I think that's something that we'll find out in a couple days. If Bethesda shows us actual gameplay, we're going to figure that out.
Like Fallout 3, I feel like it had VATS kind of as like a mea culpa to people who were fans of the old series with turn-based stuff, and it's like in reality they're like, we're trying to make a real-time open-world action game. And Skyrim didn't have anything like that, but the Elder Scrolls has never had like.
I would be okay with VATS dying off.
Yeah, a lot of people would be so pissed, but it's
just. It made it too.
VATS. Get out of here, VATS.
How did the other thing fell to VAT?
I don't think I ever did combat without VATS in that game. I feel like I used it as a crutch because it's like if you want to walk up to something, you like get to pause time basically and just we're gonna shoot them.
So see, there was already time travel.
Yeah.
Time pausing. Wait, last question. Is this game coming out in October?
Ooh, I hope so.
I mean, that's what like a bunch of retailers online are dating it 2015, and we have some placeholder October dates.
Like Amazon finally placeholdered it. Placeholder? That's not a verb.
Placehold.
In your history and experience, Andrew, go for it. What does that mean? Is that a good sign? Because I know we see placeholder dates all the time.
So they normally do them based upon quarters. So it's like if a game is like Q1, they'll just put March 31st because that means that's the latest possible date it could appear. So generally, Amazon will just put no release date has been announced. If they put December 31st, 2015, that generally is a good sign that they have some reason to believe that game's coming out in calendar 2015.
Right.
So I would think
that's good.
Amazon specifically, because like GameStop and a bunch of other places can do whatever, but Amazon specifically is like pretty structured. I would say it's a pretty good bet that it's at least 2015. The October thing, there was like I think EB Games Australia, I think it was, or
snitches.
Yeah, they put October. I don't know. It would make sense for it to be this fall.
Yeah,
like
it would be
people have
nuts,
waited so long.
That, like we talk about all the time how games get announced too early. Like we talk about this all the time.
Yeah,
the fact that someone will announce a game and then within 5 months it's available.
That would be pretty baller.
Maybe
I would love
the fact that we haven't heard about Fallout for so long is because Bethesda kind of is intentionally doing that, and realizing that.
I would love that.
They announced They announced Skyrim in tail end of 2010.
Yeah,
and it was out
VGAs,
a year later, straight up.
Yeah.
Like, and it was like that was really nice. That was great. There was no kind of long drag for that.
And we were just talking about this the other day.
Long dragon.
If they, if we were just talking about this the other day. Like, so few games announce a date and then come out on that date. Like, everything gets delayed, even if it's 2 weeks.
11/11/11 was like that was ballsy. And like, if the cheese vibrated on the table, I think it was kind of worth it for like
that date. Yeah.
Is that a euphemism?
No, it's literally what happens in that game. You'll be like fighting skeletons, and you'll look over, and they'll just be like. Just this piece of like a big old wheel of cheese just shaking around. Or you'd be like walking through the woods or something, and there'll just be like a goblet floating in midair, and you're like, ooh, a ghost, I think. God, I love those games. They're so weird.
Bethesda has their own press conference at E3. We'll find out in a few days. I don't know if they have anything else announced or confirmed releasing this year aside from the Wolfenstein thing that just came out.
Doom will be at the press conference. They confirmed that.
But we don't know. We don't know. No release date.
I would be amazed if that's this year, but I guess we'll see.
So I think Fallout is their thing this fall.
Could be.
Did you see at the beginning of Game of Thrones when that horse was on fire?
Yeah, man. You know what?
No, I haven't watched it yet. No spoilers.
Oh,
it's like 4 seconds.
We're just talking about a horse who's on fire.
It's hypothetically, if there had been.
Which is like, and I got a problem with this because, like, in The Witcher 3, the first 30 seconds they chop a horse's head off, and then they burn a horse in Game of Thrones. Like, if you're gonna kill a horse, like, give it a minute. You know, like,
what do I say? What do I say to that?
Like give it an hour. You got to kill a horse in the first 30 seconds of your. There's a problem.
Stop swearing about horses. Stop doing that.
I'm passionate about this.
You realize that the Game of Thrones and The Witcher are made by different people.
Yeah.
And they have no idea if people
They're called trends, okay? And I'm picking up on one, and it's that people don't like horses in the fantasy world.
What if this year's like there was
E3 is just
2012 was the year of the bow or whatever. What if this year it's like fans around the world will be thrilled to know that the horses are all procedurally flammable. This fire is burning in real time.
They're
Look
like
at how
they
upset the
show
horse
Uncharted
is.
4 like ba 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 ba. Nathan Drake's back. He gets off a horse and just chops its head off. I'm like,
No!
God, that would make E3 for me. That'd be so great if it's just mean to horses and just looking over at you being upset.
Or Beck is like, hey guys, I'm here to announce Sound Shapes 2, but first, and he kicks a horse off a bridge.
That's actually how Phantom Pain ends. Is Snake has to put his horse down, and you have to pull the trigger. The camera
To promote Just Dance 17, Flo Rida will rap an entire song from atop this horse that's gradually sinking into quicksand.
The PlayStation family has moved over 65 million units, but first, let's shoot a horse point blank in the mouth.
It's really horrible. It's awful.
Here's
All
Shuhei
right.
Yoshida and Adam Boyes. They're gonna just rip a horse to shreds. All right.
We're beating a dead horse.
Speaking of games where you could probably kill a horse,
Dark Souls 3?
yeah.
That was came out of nowhere. Yeah, Rooster Teeth got a bunch of screenshots and then showed them off in a video. My good pal Adam Kovic, he's a lovely man. Coming to PS4, Xbox One in 2016. PC is listed, but is accompanied by the word negotiable.
Yeah, so they said
Kickstarter.
They got hot. Kickstarter.
I think that some publishers like to mess with PC people
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
know they get riled up easy.
Yep.
Are you offended by that, PC gamers? Why are you listening to this podcast?
Listen to our #1 PC podcast,
Command prompt.
The Command
The
Prompt,
newest episode was in 2011.
with Charles and Anthony. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, obviously, Bandai Namco hasn't confirmed the game's existence, but these screenshots, unless there's the Rooster Teeths are real good Photoshoppers, this game's obviously real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they said they give a lot of, like, stats that just, it's like 10 classes,
like
45 new
really
enemies.
weirdly specific
Right?
stats.
Yeah, like, I
Like,
don't
I
even
don't
know why
even-
they would have this.
And like, who even knew those stats about Dark Souls 2 unless they went
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
and added up? Like, very strange.
They said that there are 12 areas, which means nothing, but they said roughly the length or the
What an immensely vague measurement.
12
and, like,
levels. Everyone loves
45
levels.
new
There are
enemies. Is like
hundreds
so...
of different surfaces.
One thing they said was 60 minutes of cutscenes, which is weird because normal Souls games have like 3.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference.
Seems like it's kind of missing the point of why people like those games.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of I don't know, sort of my question here. You can check out the story on the site to actually, see the video and see the screens and everything, but with Bloodborne coming out, 3-4 months ago, obviously we love it. Brian, you ranted passionately about it. I loved it. Like, I love the Souls games. Is anyone worried that this is going to be like one too many?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad if this becomes, now that there are kind of these like dueling Banjos versions of this franchise, like it's weird if this does become not like annualized in that one publisher is doing it, but yeah, it's weird if we get Souls switching off with Bloodborne.
Yeah.
We're also getting Bloodborne DLC.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's right. Shuhei's confirmed
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I mean, like
To me, that's all I need personally. But this, I mean, like I was asking you about this on the show about when do I jump into Dark Souls, and like this sounds interesting enough, if only for this boss battles thing.
Yeah.
About how boss battles now have a new heat up factor that completely changed boss battles based on undescribed factors. My favorite thing in the world.
But, so they had 2 side-by-side screenshots, and it was like, it almost reminded me of Bloodborne, to where like in a boss fight you're fighting this dude who just looks like a big knight.
Yeah.
But if things you do in the game leading up to that fight could impact the fact that you get there, and the dude is like a bloodborne wreck monster
Yep.
with like skin
Yep.
flaps and like claws and everything.
Yeah,
So,
I was wondering about that, if there were certain attacks or like maybe spamming something can cheese him into basically transforming into something else.
yeah,
like
or even
if-
like things you do. It'd be cool if there were like decisions you made in the world, to where like in Bloodborne, if like something I did impacted what Vicar Amelia was like.
Yeah.
And
That's so
but you
cool.
didn't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You got there and you're like, oh, the fight, no, it was just like a woman I fought. Whereas I get there and I'm like, no, it was a scary horse pony lady.
Maybe it'll be like in every arcade game in the 90s where you beat them up long enough and they turn orange and then they
and
turn
just start
red.
blinking.
That would be so cool. If
It's
that
Start
was
blinking like
just
crazy.
colors.
That'd
just
be
your
awesome.
colors.
Just all the Dark Souls 3 bosses have giant like red hitboxes, and you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, get his nose. He hates that. He doesn't like that one bit. Oh,
Let's
he opened
kick
his
shell.
eye. Shoot him in the eye.
Yeah, the screenshots looked really cool. The environments look cool.
Yeah.
There's like this thing that sort of looked like the
Yeah,
eye
with the
of
floating
Sauron,
sword.
like the
What were those
obelisk. Oh
sword
yeah, they're
floaty
like
things?
ghost swords on
Yeah,
the ground.
I don't know what that was.
There was a
Maybe-
big white kingdom.
Maybe it's because it's a week before E3, but we've talked about this before, but I think we're a rapidly approaching just video game overload. Like the scale of a Dark Souls game is like you have that. You got Fallout, you got
Batman.
Metal Gear, you've got Batman. Basically, everything's an open world game at this point, and like
No Man's Sky, which will take literally 95 years.
That's why I'm really excited for Uncharted games, because I know I can just.
Yes.
It is an awesome, rickety, crazy car on fire that I get to drive through the jungle for 15 hours and then I'm out. It's nothing like this. Like all of these games worry me. That I looked at the HUD for the last Assassin's Creed game, and it looked like when you pull up Yelp in a city.
Yeah.
It was just like I could eat at every one of these restaurants for the rest of my life. There's so much to do. It actually feels like a second job. So I do get worried about fatigue of games that are too big, and that's why I like to play games like that and then split them up with much smaller ones.
Yeah,
but
totally.
I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if I mentioned this on the show before, but like when I was at From Software in Japan doing some Dark Souls 2 making of stuff, they had I think 4 floors in a building. And then when I went back a year later for Bloodborne stuff, they had 8 floors. So they ostensibly had doubled as a company within
next
a
year
year.
they'll have 16 floors.
No, it's 12. You just get 4 every year. It's not exponentially.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Because then what happens the next year? They
96
literally own
floors.
multiple buildings. That's stupid, Andrew.
That's so dumb.
Stupid.
You get the hell out.
I will
Yeah,
point
I'm
out
excited.
that this says 2016, so it's like I completely agree with you guys about the fatigue of too many things, but it's also like I don't know, this could pretty easily be way late next year.
The fatigue of too many things for people with a PS4. Not necessarily that fatigue for Xbox One, because if you had already played Dark Souls 2 on last gen, you might be super excited for this if we see more at E3. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so here's the thing. Blizzard's Paul Sam joins Ready at Dawn as CEO. They're opening a new Austin, Texas hub. The really interesting thing here that says they're developing for PC, Xbox One, PS4, and one other unannounced platform that you will find out about soon.
Yeah.
Which is PC too.
Weird.
Yeah, the sequel to PCs is finally coming out.
The Ouya.
So I don't know. Like, some people are speculating that this is a new. I've literally read someone like Vita 2, and I'm like, don't. That's probably not what he's talking about. Some people are thinking that he might be talking about specs for Nintendo's next thing that they might have. Other people are just like they're probably talking about Amazon's Fire thing that like Clint Hawking is making a game for, and Kim Swift and Double Helix.
I feel like he just phrased it really badly, and he meant you'll find out about the game soon.
Oh, well, I mean, he said platform. I don't know.
Like,
it's pretty.
It's so weird to me. Like,
That's not
maybe it is the Amazon thing, but it's like.
Yeah,
It could also be like
That's such a bizarre.
VR. It could be the Oculus or Morpheus. Or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, that's actually
true.
good. That's actually a good point. And just to I guess backtrack because we didn't say Ready at Dawn were the developers of the Order 1886, and then beforehand they did the God of War games for PSP.
Yeah.
And they did the Wii port of Okami.
They did the Wii port of Okami. That had real good box art.
Yep.
You remember that box art?
Yeah,
Yeah, it had
a
the
great
IGN
watermark.
logo on
It had
it.
an IGN watermark on it.
How the hell does that happen? Get it together.
I mean, this is interesting because he also goes on to mention that the Order as an IP is owned by Sony. So in theory, I have no doubt we will be getting an Order follow-up. That doesn't necessarily mean Ready at Dawn's going to be developing it.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
They said going forward they want to own all their IP. So that's sort of an interesting because I think we all agreed that like the Order's world was really interesting. And it was gorgeous.
The tech was
and
great.
The tech was great, and it was just like the actual act of playing the game wasn't super fun. And so, I don't know.
Missed that one checkbox.
Yeah, it's that one.
That one little part of video games
that old chestnut. So the idea of maybe another developer, more seasoned developer, seasoned on consoles, handling an Order follow up that could be really cool.
Yeah, the Order
that'd be
1887. I think like for these guys, I'm actually really curious to see what Ready at Dawn does after this because like they said, they want to self-publish, they want to be like own all their IP, like that is setting themselves up for actually really a more interesting future as a developer. Because I don't know, like I think that's where the power is, right? That's how you make more money and stay more stable.
I feel like.
I mean,
it's
potentially.
a weird. It's putting the cart before the horse. That's a thing to say when you've made a couple amazing games that not only are critical successes and commercial successes, but I don't quite think like I liked the PSP God of War games. I don't remember finishing them, but like I thought they were fine. And with the Order, again, it had its problems. So I feel like sort of saying we're growing as a company, we become bigger than ever. Like, well, have you earned it yet? Sort of like what? I mean, what is that like? What's the basis of that?
Sure. I think, it's ambition and it's like, it is a risk, right? Because, if you do this and then you come out with like one bad game, it's like, hey, just kidding, we're back for the Order 3.
Yeah.
Like, I think, I think I'm sure they know that risk, you know. But I think it'd be cool. It could be really cool for them.
Yeah.
God of War, Vita.
Huh.
Right alongside the Bioshock.
On a sort of similar note here, we got an email from Edward Hooten. Darn tootin', Edward Hooten.
Don't
Beyond.
What don't you want to see at the show? I really want Phantom Pain to present a cinematic trailer, not another gameplay demonstration. I want to explore the game on my own and learn the new exciting things organically with new experience. So what don't you want to see at E3?
That's a really cool. No, everyone always says the opposite of that.
Yeah.
I like where he's going with that. That's really smart.
We don't know really much about Metal Gear's story at all.
Right.
Like, it's kind of just...
No. We do by the time... Oh, I could talk about it. I played 2 hours of Metal Gear.
Oh!
Yeah, I can talk about that. No, I can talk about that because as of tomorrow morning, or as of the time you're listening to this now, Jose's massive impressions will be online. Because Jose played like 10 hours of it.
Yeah.
At like a Metal Gear boot camp, which I don't know what that means. They made him
Side
run
note,
through mud.
I watched Jose's.
Yeah.
I watched Jose's video preview, which you can watch as of right now on IGN,
Yeah.
and it's one of my favorite video previews we've ever done
Yep.
here. It is incredible. Every single thing he calls out, we have a visual representation of it. Like they killed it on the edit.
Yeah, it's incredible.
really cool.
And Jose is one of those, like, he's like, like Max and I, like, we are absolutely obsessed with this series. Yeah, so Jose got to play the prologue, which I didn't. And the prologue's sort of what we saw originally with Snake in the hospital and like the weird like fire whale in the sky. And so there's a lot of story in that, which I didn't get to play, but I did get to play that initial open world mission where you have to rescue Master Miller.
And that's in Afghanistan,
And
right?
that's in Afghanistan, and that open world is freaking huge.
So there are two main areas.
There's
right?
Afghanistan and Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah. The two A's, the double A's.
God, I'm so excited about this.
No, it's incredible. And then the base building stuff, like Fultoning and building Mother Base, all this seems incredible. Like, this is, if you're not excited for this game yet, I mean, which is absolutely insane.
You can show up at your friend's mother bases and right?
Yep.
Sorry about that.
No,
but
you can
seriously.
when it comes to Mother
kinda need
Bases,
to
we
say
can
that.
say fucking
Yeah. So I love that.
Just don't write it down.
It's just the trailer for that game. I mean, the gameplay stuff. Like, that's the thing is I really want to digest the story. Like, I want to play. I like where Edward's coming from. We also totally just completely did not answer his question.
Yeah, I know. So I'm sorry. I just got really excited for Metal Gear. Let's actually.
Also, I do want to just double tangent and say I've known you for a long time. I hang out with you a whole lot. I never knew you were a Metal Gear guy.
Yeah, Snake Eater is one of my favorite games of all time.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Learn something new. New wrinkle in my brain.
New wrinkle in brain. But sorry, yes. Edward, what don't we want to see at E3? I don't know.
We should talk about Metal Gear.
You want to just keep talking about Metal Gear?
Keep talking about Metal Gear. This
Oh,
is
now I
huge.
feel bad for Edward. We'll go back to Edward's question.
Well, Edward's going to be happy because Edward talks about Metal Gear, and now we're going to talk about Metal Gear. So it's not like Edward brought up something, then we brought up something else.
I
true.
don't want to
Well, I
see
mean, that is
a
what
guy
happened,
with
but
his
yes, a little bit.
t-shirt tucked into his jeans, but I will.
Yeah.
You absolutely will. You're going to see a lot of sweaty people. I'm going to be one of them.
Yep.
Wait,
Lots
we
of
still
sweat.
talking about Metal Gear?
No, that's E3.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I want to see that Metal Gear either.
What if there's like, I'd love it if there's just a Metal Gear boss who's just like a really regular dude who's just in like some cargo shorts and he's just like, "Hi,
just sign.
Snake, it's me again,
It's Fred.
Orange Antelope," or something. And you're like, "What do you?"
People will be like, wow, that's so weird. It's so genius.
That's so meta. Kojima, you so meta.
Remember the time you fought a guy who was just a fat guy in a bomb costume who was just drunk on
roller
rollerblades?
skates?
He's just rollerblading around with a glass of wine, and he's just like, "You'll never stop me, Snake," or Raiden, or whatever your name is.
Yeah.
He's just like,
What about when you fought a guy who was just like, oh, I heard you like Ape Escape. I
Yeah.
read that.
I'm an S&M psychic. I can turn invisible.
Do you like Mario Party for the GameCube? I know you do.
Did they have weird stuff like that on Twin Snakes?
Of course it did. Yeah, that game was really broken, by the way, because you could fight everything in first person and just
Yeah, that's
none of it was supposed to work like that.
yeah. There was parts where I remember playing that and friggin' like just standing at this top of this flight of stairs in first person, and the guards don't look where they're going because they're just like they just look at the ground, so they're
Yeah.
just like running straight up and just like. And they're just,
Yep.
Anyway, Phantom Pain. You played 2 hours?
Played 2 hours. I played through that mission. The stealth felt really good. The open world stuff felt really good.
Did it feel like Ground Zeroes? Like I
Yeah,
mean,
it felt like Ground Zero was just on such a larger scale.
more selection of stuff to do.
Yeah,
and-
absolutely, and just like ways that in the single mission, like he's in this little village, and just ways of approaching it to where you could go in guns a-blazing, or you could try to wait until night and go in just under the guise.
So it's like a big old Far Cry outpost.
It's like a big old Far Cry.
Oh, that sounds so good.
That sounds amazing.
That sounds so good.
That's actually
but
the
with-
single most exciting line of hype I have
Yeah.
for this game.
Yeah.
Is right there.
It's just multiple.
but with balloons and goats. And
Yeah,
like
which I love. It's
and
there's
Kojima weirdness.
this really like great comedy to it all of walking up and like shooting somebody and tying their leg to a balloon and watching them fly away.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
And it's also funny because you learn to do that back at your base, and Ocelot's like, go knock out that guy, and like you walk up to him and he's like, sir, and then you just like punch him and knock him out, and then Fulton him, and I'm like, wait, where's he being taken if he's already at the base?
So you can decide to not kill somebody in the game and then recruit them for your base.
They end up on your boat later.
So-
Gotta catch them all.
Yeah.
Soldiers.
Can you kind of explain to me like how the base thing works? Because it looks like Snake's just building this giant madhouse of crazy people.
Yeah, and it's not just people; it's animals,
Yeah.
it's crates, it's tanks.
But then people try to kill it.
then people come and try to kill it. But also, if you try
Hi,
to,
D, I choose you.
if you instead of like knocking someone out, if you like shoot them and they're bleeding, and then you try to Fulton them, they could die on the way. If you try to Fulton during a thunderstorm, the balloon could break, and the thing could fall and die.
That's
so like
awesome.
you could try to send a goat up, and it could get lost in a storm.
Yes. I'm so stoked.
It's so insane. It
That's
just,
awesome.
It
I
is
like
so
that,
weird.
I like that this is a game where you can get inside of a cardboard box that has a big bikini woman on the side of it, and she's so sexy that the guy who's guarding the whatever the thing is forgets that he's supposed to be guarding it, and that this doesn't make any sense, and he'll just be like, "Whoa, look at that sexy bikini lady!" And then you punch him in the face through the box. This game is great.
It is so weird. You're just like, so you rescue Master Miller, and he's all messed up. He's like, man, I don't know what happened. Like,
Snake, those are Alaskan field mice.
He's like, I think we're in hell. We're not in hell. We're already dead. I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. You guys. But then he's like there, and you're riding a chopper over the ocean, and Snake like puts on headphones, and you could choose what song to play. And so I just choose like Space Oddity, and I'm just like sitting there listening to David Bowie, and I'm like, how long can I do this for? The entire song plays, and I'm like, what is this game? Like, literally, what are we playing?
Oh
like,
my God.
You literally spend the game stealing people's cassette tapes. Like, instead of dog tags, you steal cassette tapes from people to
That's
like, add to your
awesome.
collection, to like be able to listen to your in your Walkman as you're flying from Africa to your weird water base with
I'm
goats.
so excited
It
about
is the
this.
weirdest. It is the dumbest. It is the weirdest. I am so excited.
This sounds like it is just doubling down so hard on just the with people.
Yeah,
Which is
seriously.
what I've always loved about Metal
Is this
Gear.
like the weird? This is like the Mariah Carey Christmas album she has to make when the record label's like, you owe us one more album, and she's like, yeah, go suck my. And she just makes the weirdest, craziest thing. Just gets
the
it
words
out
of
there.
Mariah Carey.
Like, I feel like Konami was just like, you still owe us one. He's like, I'll give you one.
If you're bad at the game, it makes you wear a chicken hat.
Yeah, it does. If you lose in a mission enough, it makes you wear a chicken hat.
That's awesome.
Oh God, it's so good. And you just go steal a goat.
Yeah.
And your horse will take a dump. You can make your horse crap.
Yeah, and if you want to,
As long as he's
Did you-
alive, I don't
did you
care.
if
fight
you
any
want
bosses?
if you want to move, I didn't find any bosses. There was a part after you rescue Master Miller, these like 5 like scary zombie robot ninjas show up, and they're all like twitching and scary, and they can teleport. And if they catch you, it's an automatic death. So I tricked them with my horse. I sent my horse out, and they ran after my horse.
Did they
And
kill him?
I don't know what happened. I did not.
You piece of trash.
I did not see what happened to that horse afterwards because I used that as a diversion.
You're part of the damn problem.
I just love that.
He
like,
found the goat in the thunderstorm, and they became friends.
Yeah.
I love the idea of like I just.
Found a goat in a thunderstorm sounds like a David Bowie song.
It's my favorite sexual position. Goat in
I
the
found the
thunderstorm.
goat in the thunderstorm.
Yeah, I love
right.
the ludonarrative dissonance in Metal
Yeah.
Gear is the best. It's always been my favorite thing about it. You can put a Claymore mine in a urinal, and a guy's like, "Well, I don't know what that noise was, but I'm gonna go take a." You're just like, and then everyone's like, "What was that? Let's go check." Ah, never mind, whatever. And you can, yeah, you can shoot birds, and I just like it sounds like this is totally just going crazy with this. I'm so stoked. I love that these like cyborg ninjas who can like teleport, and they're like scary, and they're. I mean, we've seen them in the trailer, right? Like those guys.
Yeah.
I love that you can just be like, I know what'll trick them, and you just send your horse out. It's like you're freaking MacGyver. Like
Yeah.
that's totally that's like some bullshit pull. I'm sorry we're swearing so much. Metal Gear looks freaking
About that
awesome.
again. Yeah.
There's 2 right there.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
2 hours was fucking great though. I'm
there's
go
3
watch Jose's.
curses.
That's sorry, Alexio. That's a lot of work.
Metal Gear. Okay.
Very good. So what don't we want to see at E3?
Yeah.
What do not you want to not see?
Yeah. Okay.
There's-
So going back to Edward Hooten's question, what don't we want to see at E3?
So I don't want to see a single press conference go off without a technical hiccup of some kind.
A technical,
like
a
that-
technical
like that one.
hippogriff.
I love because I love like when the Battlefield demo broke and that guy had to stand there for what felt like 4 days. And it was just like the music kept going, but there was nothing on screen.
You just watched him live his entire life.
Yeah, and there's
He
just
was
a
really
man
mad, too.
A man ages rapidly in front of you, standing on screen while
It's like
everyone's
watching
like,
Oh, man,
time
look
lapse
at
of
my
a,
life.
it's a time lapse of a rotting corpse of a fox. It just molds over. I kind of want to edit that now. I kind of want to just turn the longest technical difficulty ever into a video. I don't want to see a guy's hands when they're showing me a game in action. Like, I don't want them to cut to the controller and be like, meanwhile, in case you've forgotten,
How video
in
games
the
work.
interest of nothing, here's this man's hands.
He's playing a video game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I know it like, we know why we're here. It's
Yeah.
a game. You know, presumably there's going to be some, like, you know, some smoke and mirrors to make things look cooler. You know, like, what I've heard is that what's standard practice is they've got the people who are trained to basically go through the demo and show off everything. And they have to rehearse that. It's like a recital.
Yeah.
But what isn't really public knowledge is that there's an exact duplicate person backstage, and they are basically streaming simultaneously. So it's like synchronized gaming basically.
Yeah.
And if they have a technical hiccup, they just flip a switch and they go from like feed input 1 to input 2, and
Right.
it's just like that's how you work around. I think like Assassin's Creed did that one year, and it was like it stopped working, but then it suddenly was just working again, and you're like, what did they do? You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I hate all that stuff because it gives them an excuse to show not the game for a moment. Like they'll cut over to somebody's hands or like a logo for a second. Speaking of which, I don't want to see logos for things that aren't actually things. Instead
Right, that
of
was
just like,
gonna be mine.
and in 2017, Project Turtle. It's like, get that trash off the screen. It's not a game. Show me that when it's a game. I don't
I don't want to
liars.
see anything announced that is coming out anytime after fall of 2016.
Yeah.
I don't want to see a trailer for a new studio. Like that was like Black Tusk did that. They were like,
the
"You
guy
show this
climbing up the
really
building."
cool," and you're like, what is this cool new game?
And
they're
now
like,
they make Gears of War.
yeah, and then they change their name, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like this is how I'm in a band. Like I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh, we have a name. I don't
Yeah.
play anything. My friend has a guitar, I think. Like,
Yeah, I feel like all of these like center around just like don't do anything pandering.
Yeah.
Like don't wheel out a crappy celebrity who doesn't know what they're talking about. Like don't spend too much time on numbers and
Also,
dumb
like,
business stuff I don't care about.
I don't want to be shitty. Oh, sorry.
You can be shitty.
But I don't show us mobile games during the press conferences. Like honestly, like that's just not the place for it. It's not the audience for it.
Yeah.
I think like every year there's like whatever
Ran
it
out of
is that,
space for swears.
that kills the momentum. In every conference, there's always that one moment where it's like, oh, it was going so well, and then it just dies, and then
Yep.
they maybe pick it up again before the end. It's like, how do people not know by now? Just like don't
everyone
do that.
was dying to hear about Wonder Book too.
exactly.
Wonderbook.
Wonder Book.
I'm
More
Tony
Wonder
Hawk, and when I'm not doing the ollies, I'm playing on my Wonder Book.
When I'm not
There should just be a
ollie-
trapdoor where he falls into a pit.
I want Tony Hawk to just come out and arbitrarily announce stuff that doesn't have, like
Yep.
he comes out and everyone's like, oh, new Tony Hawk game, and he's like,
Guess what, everyone? I just took
There's food in West Hall around the back
it's just,
lobby.
or he just comes out and he's like, Gears of War fans will be thrilled to learn that there's a new Gears of War trading card game coming
Yes.
to mobile devices, and you're like,
Or
what?
it's just like an old '90s like celebrity endorsed like
Project
don't do
Gotham
drugs.
5. Like, just what? Tony Hawk, why are you here?
You can make
Yeah, we're
pretzels
gonna
at
get-
home using regular breads.
Regular friends.
Save money by reusing coffee filters.
What a weird thing.
I'm Tony Hawk, and let's talk about insurance policies.
Okay, so we're gonna try something new. Brian hopped in the group and basically asked you guys, the Facebook group that is, which is a place you should hang out because it's full of lovely people.
Yeah, the Podcast Beyond Facebook group.
Podcast Beyond.
Podcats me on.
That's what you're listening to still, for some reason.
Pod bats.
So we asked, just got a bunch of questions for you guys that we're going to try to burn through really fast. Brian called them rapid fire PlayStation Minis.
That's right. They're tiny little bite-sized baby questions for our baby ears
like
to
that
consume.
one, the hamster in space or whatever.
That's right.
it's
So let's fly
called.
through them. Number one, Devin Simpson asks, is a PS3 price cut needed? Right now it's about $220 or $250 with a discount. GoFarb, we're trying to find information on this. It seems like everyone's chopping off $30.
Yeah.
So do we need a PS3 price
I
cut?
bet you it's going to be $30 or it's going to be $200 by Christmas.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know that- I
$199
know
with a
that
game
we-
bundle then?
I don't know that we need it, but I think Sony wants to clear out.
Yeah,
those units.
I don't think it'll be a thing at E3, but
Yeah.
I think having a $150 console at Christmas would be incredible.
Yeah,
Speaking
maybe
of
even
which-
make a slimmer, like the last PS2. Like
You think they're gonna make another one?
No, well, no, but I'm saying if they can make it cheaper to make, and
If
that's
they
how
make
they
it-
were priced
Is
out,
it
then-
cursed? If it gets thinner, it's like the hit film Thinner. Where
Yeah.
that man was
I don't know if that
cursed
was
because he
a
ran
hit.
over.
If they make
He ran
make
over a gypsy.
Another slim one, like a really, really slim one.
Yeah.
It's like that last PS2. I might like stupidly buy one.
What if they
That's
make one
such a-
so thin
Yep.
you can't see it?
Number two, Jason Hales, is the Vita getting a price drop since it's dead?
it's not dead, and yes.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah, I think it'll absolutely get a price.
Number 3, Carter McDaniels asks, what type of game do you think would best lend itself to bring a Morpheus exclusive? I think a WarioWare-esque microgame title would be a fun game and a great way to showcase the tech of the headset. I love that idea. I also kind of disagree because I think they're going for immersion, so having something that switches between 50 different things in 10 seconds with a guy screaming, wah! would be a little ridiculous.
Throw up
funny.
after every game.
Wah!
I feel like some type of game would be a spooky game. I think people want a spooky game in Morpheus that's immersive.
I think it's a great idea.
They're going to get too spooked, though.
Maybe we should call it Silent Hills. Number 4, Rob Tisdale asks, what advantage do you get from going commando at E3? Or should you just wear underwear? Now, for people who don't understand, going commando
It's called
is where
swamp ass.
No, it's not.
It's real.
Swamp ass is a different thing.
No, Swamp
No,
Ass was
Swamp
a
Ass
better
is
way.
Going
It was a
commando
snake
is
eater
when you
boss.
wear nothing underneath nothing around your parts. You just wear
yeah.
jeans or pants.
I was answering
free
his
ball.
question. What advantage? It's not an advantage. It's
a
called
disadvantage.
swamp ass.
Do you get that with or
wear
without?
underwear.
You're gonna get that
Yeah,
walking
just wear
around.
underwear.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't. Does anyone? Why would you not wear underwear? Underwear.
No, don't worry. Don't
underwear.
free nut. Don't free ball it at the E3 press conference. All right.
Can
don't
we
need
just
you
cut
all.
out this entire segment?
Yeah. Number 5, Noah Piasek asks, 1 minute weigh-in on Shenmue 3. Any way in hell, thank you.
Nope. Probably not.
No?
Yeah.
Really doubt it.
I'm gonna say yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think
No.
they'll put the crane game on iOS with a middle finger when you beat it. That's about it.
Every time someone beats the game, there's like a guillotine that gets a little bit lower at Yu Suzuki's head. It's fine. Shinji Mikami never cut his head off after RE4. But
And
we'll
that
wrap it
is the
up.
Rapid Fire PlayStation Minis segment. If you like it, let us know. We'll keep doing more. I like going through quick questions like that.
Yeah.
Little bite-sized babies.
Quid pro
Don't
questions.
cover up your balls at E3.
Bite-sized
Shenmue 3's
babies.
Shenmue 3's not happening, and we're getting price cuts left and right. Everyone's happy.
Shenmue's-
Don't say any more questions about underwear, though.
That was the WarioWare of Q&A.
Yeah, that's kind of what that is. And
Yeah.
of course, like I said, go to the Facebook Beyond podcast group.
Guys, I have an announcement.
Oh, yeah.
You know what's exciting that comes out this week?
What?
Lego Jurassic Park.
Oh, that's this week?
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what I need before E3.
Yeah, that's gonna be great.
I'm so excited about that. So that's all 3. Is it all 4 movies?
Yeah, all 4 movies.
The Jurassic Park quadrology?
Quadrology. A bunch of games are coming out this week. Alien Archives Gradius, which is just Gradius. That's a video game.
That's
right. Elder
Thank you
Scrolls.
for that noise to illustrate what a video game is.
Well, people weren't watching the video. They didn't know. You shouldn't be rude. Elder Scrolls Online is coming to PS4 finally.
Yeah.
It's free to play.
Sort of.
I think there's a subscription.
Oh, not free to play. No,
You
it's
still
not
have
a
to buy
subscription.
it. You still have to buy the game.
Oh,
You buy the
that's-
game.
that's what it is.
You
Yeah,
buy the
yeah,
game.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
You buy the game, and then
There's a pool game called Hustle Kings. That seems it's got one-on-one matches.
Someone's going to get shot in
Someone
that
could get
game.
shot. Don't play that game. Invokers Tournament, which is a MOBA for PS4. We don't have Mitch on though, so we're not going to talk about that more. Lego Jurassic World and Operation Abyss, the new Tokyo Legacy. It's got young girls on the cover.
Uh-oh.
And They're part of the X Squad Code Physics Agency. Who did that?
Good. All right.
I felt good about
I'm
it.
really excited for Jurassic World. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, so am I.
That's super cute.
Because most of those movies are not good, but playing the Lego versions of them will be awesome.
It'll be adorable.
Because there's Lego pterodactyls.
Yeah. Terrible dactyls. We have one last big thing to talk about.
Yeah. Podcast Beyond that we're doing a live house party. Everybody get together.
If you want to come to
Wow.
the house
I'm
party,
so sorry because everyone was like, "You guys had so much energy last week. It was great." Also,
you
Max
had
wasn't
tons
there. It
of
was
energy.
awesome. I wasn't there.
But you had tons of energy this
Yeah.
week
was
until the
home.
part where you
Yeah.
talked about a thing called a house party.
Yeah.
House party sounds like a nap for me. That's what I do in my
It's
house.
like
as I
someone
go
snuck in here and
sleep on a
hit you with a
couch.
tranquilizer dart right there. Like,
I'm so
you were doing
tired.
a throw full form of help you.
Yeah, IGN's house party. It is Podcast Beyond 400.
Yeah.
Yay.
June
And
27th.
June 27th, also Podcast
San
Unlocked
Francisco.
200.
That's
yes,
a
in San
Saturday.
Francisco.
At Broadway
Studios.
It's right near the majority of strip clubs in
Yeah.
San Francisco.
That's right.
So if you
Yeah.
have never been near a strip club, you're
going to
And you can go to a bunch of cool bars.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a big celebration of 2 of our sort of flagship podcasts, but also there's going to be representation from all IGN there. People like Jose Otero, Per Schneider, people from NBC
Yeah,
will be there.
Naomi, Damon.
Yeah, everyone's gonna be there. So it's sort of like, we wanted to throw a big thing for 400, but we also wanted to throw a big thing for 200, and then just a big party in general. We
Yep.
just have never really done a big day of IGN stuff.
Yep.
Where we get to just hang out with fans.
Come hang
I mean,
out. That's
we,
it.
we try to do this stuff at like PAX, and it ends up kind of smaller than we needed to be. So this is one big central location. Tickets are flying. There's like 80 of them, 75
Yeah,
of them,
they're-
or something like that.
we're
I
almost
think they're
at
$26,
Yeah.
but you get a T-shirt, you get food and beverages all
if
day
you want to
long.
jump on that right now, we have a very quick, easy URL. It is go.ign.com/house party. No
That's
special
right.
characters or spaces or anything.
Yeah,
'cause
I mean, it's
the
gonna be
URL. That's how that
super.
works.
It's gonna be super cool. We're planning cool exclusive reveals there, footage.
We're gonna kill an actual horse.
We're gonna kill a horse
just for
the-
Brian.
Better
And then-
not.
We're gonna have a cake.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be shaped like a
We're gonna
horse, and
s-
we're gonna cut off the headpiece and just hand it to Brian.
And we're gonna screen the
then
film
we're gonna
House
set
Party.
the whole.
Yeah, we're gonna
It's
screen
Marty's
the
favorite.
entire
Good.
film House Party and House Party 2.
Yeah.
We're gonna be live streaming.
And Marty's gonna cut his hair like that one guy.
Solitaire.
None of this is gonna happen.
Nothing.
No, it's gonna be
Not at
it's gonna be
all.
amazing.
We're gonna have fun.
Yes.
There's also an after party at Neck of the Woods. If you can't make one, maybe show up to the other. Damon Hatfield will be DJing there. That's in the inner Richmond.
Yeah, so Neck of the Woods is 21 and over, but House Party is not.
Yes.
The only thing 21 and over is if you want to buy alcoholic beverages.
That's right.
But yeah, it's going to be
Some
cool.
of us will.
I know a lot of you maybe came to Podcast Beyond 200 or 300, which were held in the office. We're trying to aim for something just as cool, if not cooler, with special guests and whatnots and just haunted ghosts.
Yep. There's
Yeah.
gonna be a
Haunted
We're gonna
ghosts.
kill an actual ghost. I like how it's just like we're announcing things. We're gonna kill this thing. We're gonna kill that thing.
Yeah.
Video games
There
don't
will
make
be
you
no
violent.
murder at the IGN House Party.
You can't promise
You can't-
There will be no premeditated murder at the IGN House Party.
You can't promise that there won't be any murder somewhere.
that. Yeah, there could be a murder.
You're just
yeah.
setting yourself up with that.
There's a
one.
lot of weird stuff going on right now.
Yeah.
We will try not to let anything die during this
We
show.
will hopefully have a great time, and hopefully
That's
you'll
right.
be there with us. And thank you
There
so much
will
for
not
listening.
be.
and
There won't be a horse cake.
no,
There
there's,
won't be.
there's no horse cake. There's no
I kind of want a horse cake.
I kind of. We
Let's
should
go
totally
safe.
get a horse cake.
Let's
Maybe
go
we should
now.
get a horse cake.
We have to go get a
horse
horse cake for Brian, but thank you all for listening so much. If you'd like to write us emails, that's the thing you can do. It is just beyond@ign.com.
Yep.
We are all on Twitter. I'm Max Scoville. Marty is McBiggity. Brian is Agent Bizzle. And Andrew is Garfep.
Garfab.
Garfab.
No baby Garfab.
That's right.
On that note, tie a goat to a weather balloon and set a horse on fire. Beyond!
Beyond.
Beyond.
I go to a weather balloon.